talking and it's panning to them.
Okay.
But once,
So is there any way for me to do this with my phone?
unfortunately, you need to hook this in.
Hmm.
That's the one downside.
I'm not confident that my laptop's going to make it through this without crashing.
What kind of? Oh, you got a circular one. Running out of juice or just crashing completely?
It just crashed.
Okay.
I charged it before I came, so it's charged, but it doesn't do much. So I closed everything out, and I'll just have the only other one I'll need a tab will need open, obviously, is the Note. So hopefully it works, but I'll let you know.
Because I believe you can also hook it up to like the computer over there. I think there's a computer on the desk, right?
Yes, I don't know how to get into it, but there's a computer there.
Because that could be the other option to do it. So, oops, did that crash me? Oh no, you're in the bottom right.
Yeah, it's still going, right? Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, I got it. Can you see on your screen there? Is it turning this way at all?
It froze.
Oh, lovely. Oh, no, it has.
There we go.
Is it looking at me? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's looking at me now. Okay.
I'm not sure I'm gonna stay. Because those are my two agenda items for that. What does that mean? They know what I told them, but if you should forget. It's local emergency management plan. Got it.
Okay, that's my thought.
It's the assistant board and not assistant chair.
Okay.
So that will be before we make a motion to approve the meetings.
Okay, so just add it.
At least that one changed. That was brought to my attention the other day, and it's brought to her attention. Assistant board and assistant chief.
I'm not even sure that it needs to be appointed by.
We had the correct heading, we just didn't get it right in the body. And you're right, I think it was.
All right, I think it's 6 o'clock, so call the meeting to order. First up is modifications to the agenda. I would suggest maybe we take care of our 2 highway department things at this back to back. So I would suggest moving the highway department update up to right after the Barrett Rattle. If nobody's opposed to that. Any other modifications?
Are we allowed to add something or suggest something?
Not generally, I think.
I don't think you're allowed to add anything. You could bring.
Well, you had mentioned at your last meeting that you're gonna address the decoration and inclusion.
We did, and we decided to remove it from this agenda and take it up at a future meeting. One, because we had a pretty full agenda as it was, and depending on what is decided, there's a possibility we might have to make arrangements for the grants coordinator. I know it doesn't seem like it's tied to it, but
But more importantly, it's something that people are going to want to weigh in on. Everyone's going to want to have their input on. It's going to require a lot of discussion. when that happens. And with some of the items on our agenda tonight that are like, mission critical to the functioning of various town departments, we felt it appropriate to push that back to June.
Didn't require a pilot discussion or anything.
Well,
So the modifications of agendas, as far as deciding that before the agenda is posted, that's kind of up to us. We don't have to discuss that in an open meeting per state law. That's one of the few things we can discuss amongst ourselves. So,
Okay, fair enough. You can I'll bring it up again.
yeah, I'm sorry. I know people want to discuss it, and it is, it is one of the many things that we are, we're dealing with as a town right now, but we just had some other more pressing issues tonight that need to get solved.
Yeah, as Will said, we're sure it's going to generate a fair amount of discussion, so it didn't look like the agenda to take it up. Okay, moving on to approval of meeting minutes, April 14th, 2025.
So you had one correction on that?
Yes, I had the correction under the assistant fire warden category.
Are we talking about the 14th or the 28th?
April 14th.
Okay. Assistant fire.
Warden, and in the body, it says assistant fire chief, which is incorrect. It was indeed, the heading was correct, and it should be the assistant fire warden. And that was Ryan and Adam, I'm sorry, Adam. We had everything right except for the title in the body.
Okay. Any other revisions? If not, someone want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the April 14th meeting minutes as amended here tonight.
I second that.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the April 14th meeting as revised, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? April 28th, 2025. I sent some suggested revisions to Will, but I don't know if they got incorporated into.
Yeah, because the timing of which I actually got those done, I wasn't able to incorporate them. Do you happen to have a list of it there? I can always pull up the email.
Yeah, I just I didn't think until last minute and headed out the door, but I suggested adding to the list of attendees, Mike Keach, Howard Remick, and Richard Kozlowski.
Oh, yes. So that one, on the sign-up sheet, they never signed in, so that's why I didn't include them. But we can always include them.
They were invited to the executive session.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and that was another suggestion. Made to put that in, they were invited in. And that, I may not be correct on this one, but under the liquor license, I think we had it that we approved the liquor license for the Waterford block party. Is that what it should be? I thought it maybe should be the Tack Room LLC or one. But it's fine the other way too, I guess.
I don't know that, I mean,
We approved it and you signed it, so I think whatever we signed was correct.
yeah, I don't think how it appears in the minutes is gonna affect that in any way. But
Yeah, just maybe that's who the liquor license was. And the other one was, and I'm not sure, this is probably just me or wording, but I believe when we came out of executive session, it said, well, I don't have the whole thing in front of me, but there was a portion that said agreement between Great River Hydro and the listers. would suggest it changing it to proposal from Great River High Road to the county districts.
That's probably more accurate.
Yeah, I'm good with that one.
Anybody else have any other suggested revisions? If not, I guess I was on proposing. Can I make a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for April 28th with the revisions that we discussed.
I would second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Citizens' concerns. Kathy?
Make a motion. I'd like to know when Old County Road South is going to get fully graded from Mad Brook to Charlie Lawrence's. The grader was up there on April 14th, and it graded one little section above our driveway. But when you turn on to Old County Road to Mad Brook, it is terrible going both ways with potholes, and you have to drive, especially if you need another car, onto Dan Paschal's lawn on the very edge. Dan Paschal will be back this week, and he will be not very happy if he knows people are driving on his lawn. The other bad spot is up by Campo Road. I was told in October when I asked when we were going to get graded, and I was told there's only one grader operated. I understand that, but the grader was there on April 14th. And why the whole road was not completely graded, and you have to bring the equipment back a second time, is a waste of the town's money. And it has not been graded completely at all since before the flood of last year. And it is a disaster. And I would like to see the road commissioners drive around and check out all of those, because every road in this town is like that. The same thing happened on Remick Road. A Remick Road, it was graded and just past Gillanders, between there and Kingman's, he stopped 10 feet and there are 2 holes in the middle of that road. And I went that road to the dump after he had just plowed, graded, and I couldn't believe that he stopped within 10 feet. The other place that's bad on Old County Road South is out by the doctor's house. I walked that road from my house to High Ridge, and from my house to way out past where it's class 4, 2 or 3 times a day. And there's multiple people that walk that road a day. It's only a matter of time before one of us steps in one of those holes and twists our ankle or breaks a leg. And if it happens to me, I will be suing the town. And it's ridiculous. It's been almost a year and that road has not been graded. And to have the grader there and not do it, and he graded part of Mad Brook Road down by where you come off the pavement to Randy Bedard's, he did not grade the top. And that is so rutted from the spring thaw, that is almost impassable. It's ridiculous. And I'd like to see it fixed.
Okay. Do we want to talk about this now or do it in your highway report?
Make any difference to me. I'm just coming off vacation. I've been gone for 2 weeks. It's been raining. You can't brake when it's raining. Bottles are full of water. Earlier, it depends on when the frost was coming out and when the frost was coming out. And it turned into a priority basis where I know what the roads are like and I treat them on a priority basis. You hit the worst spots, try and get around and do the worst spots so that they're not as bad. As far as going around starting a regiment of grading the whole area and then moving on is what I typically do. Because there's no sense in, like Kathy said, going there, hitting this, going over here, going over there, but we haven't done that yet. And today was the first day that I'm back. We had some other things that we had to do first thing in the morning, and then I went out on Daniel's Farm and hit Simpson Brook. Those were pretty bad. But up until this point, it's been a priority basis, where the worst spots were, and I've taken care of the worst spots. Now it's time to go around and start hitting them all,
What do you think?
weather permitted.
And you, and, you know, I assume that's kind of your mission now is to go around and do, and on the positive side, you know, I assume the new person started today,
Yes, he did. He
So-
ran the water truck for me.
that will
That will help out too as well, because I had Sean out on the sweeper, trying to get the spring sweeping done. It's been wet, it doesn't pick up stuff good. He ran into an issue with the water on it today, so we gotta fix that. But, he's been trying to get the sweeping done. I got Jacob with me. He's running the water truck and the calcium, and I'm doing it.
Well, I can tell you the section where you come off that road is bad. And it was bad when you were grading there and you drove right over it and didn't even drop a blade.
That spot up the top of Mad Brook was still wet when I was up there before. I
I'm-
can't grade into something that's humped up and wet because it's got the top off it.
I understand
It's
that,
starting to have a muck hole.
but Old County Road was dry and that was rough and you drove over it and didn't drop the blade. I understand the top of that road and it's time that Old County Road got graded from one end to the other.
Okay.
all right, let's, yep. Any other citizens concerns? Rob?
First, I'm gonna mention the declaration of inclusion is decided, but I understand why you're not addressing it today. Secondly, as chair of the Green Up Committee, I'm just curious if we have any, specifically, we came across 3 bags of dirty diapers that were just gross in front of us, Riverside Cemetery Road there. Fortunately, there was an address in there, and I did call the sheriff's department. Then they had somebody get shot on Concord Ave, so I understand that they're not addressing that right away. But are they gonna listen to me, or is there a little oomph behind it if the select board sends a letter, or is there anything that we can do? To put a little bite behind people who shouldn't be throwing their shit on our, literally, on our roads.
I would say I've reached out to the sheriff anyway, about coming eventually. So he's supposed to call me back this week, and I will push for that. A little more umph than that is probably best, because they have the ability to charge. So if needed.
Okay, so I still have, it's a prescription bottle, and I have it, I put the address and the name and everything.
Okay. And you have reached out to him?
So the sheriff.
Okay. Okay, I've reached out to them before the state police. Probably get a quicker response from the state police. If you give me that, I'll see what I can do as well.
All right. Yeah, I guess if you're throwing the trash out.
Yeah, no more foresight, right?
Yep. Okay, any other citizens' concerns? All right, next up is planning commission appointment. Have we had any volunteers?
No, we have not, but Matt, has reached out to some people, so stay tuned. You may have some.
Okay,
Here's our volunteer.
Okay.
One house, he from.
Yep.
Thank you.
There's no conflict in on the other.
I spoke with Matt, and said there's no conflict.
Okay.
And I spoke with Jeremy, and he didn't know if he was on the planning commission, so he was gonna plan.
I didn't know he was on the planning commission. But he's declined to take it.
He did.
So does that mean even if we appoint Sean, we're still,
We're still down one.
one seat.
so Max,
Can we make a motion to appoint Sean Halsey? Would you entertain a motion from me to appoint Sean Halsey to the planning commission?
I'll second it.
Okay.
any discussion? If not, all those in favor of appointing Sean Halsey to the planning commission, say aye.
Aye.
Those
Thank you,
opposed?
Sean.
Yes, thank you.
Next up is cemetery section. And, Deb, are you here to speak?
I can. I don't know if I'm speaking to the cemetery or as town clerk.
Okay.
I worked with Mark Harpin last year, in doing all the burials and selling the plots, so I highly suggest him
We,
in that position.
I only have the one applicant,
Yes.
correct?
And I work well together, we'll have a flexible schedule.
I'm guessing this is Mark in the chair back here?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Mark.
I would make a motion that are we just able to hire, will it be a town employee,
He'll be a town
temporary?
employee. He's a line item in our budget
Okay,
that was approved.
so I make a motion that we hire Mark Harpin as the town's cemetery sexton.
Okay. All right, any discussion? If not, all those in favor of hiring Mark Hartman as cemetery secretary, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Is, the
Go to
this,
go to the settings right here.
gravel that was washed onto Richard Barrett's lawn in last year's flooding.
My apologies. I am handling a microphone issue over here. Go try edit. Scroll down. Oops.
It might be nice if we send a letter to Kevin Gillian because I believe he's doing it.
Yeah, it is. Kind of the tractor over there. Needs cleaning.
It should be using it should be using the microphone on the
Yeah,
owl because
I'm
the
just
camera is
waiting
moving.
Because Will spoke with Mr. Barrett.
Yes, and I believe right on cue, Tim had some thoughts he wanted to share on this issue as well.
Apologies, everyone.
All good. All good.
I'm gonna be able to switch into settings because this is where it says microphone and use.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, sorry, that is mine. This one's yours.
I just don't want to kick you out.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard, Tim, but we're down to talking about the gravel that was deposited on Richard Barrett's lawn.
Okay. So I went down and spoke to him, and a couple of things. This obviously happened during the July rain, and the gravel was on his lawn. A FEMA rep apparently drove by and asked, "Hey, did you have any, structural damage, or was it just this deposit on the lawn?" He replied that this was it, and they said, "Okay," and drove off. So, in a manner of speaking, he interpreted that as them saying, "Okay, there's nothing that can be done here." So he never filed a, what's the word I'm looking for? Not a complaint, like a
The damage report.
damage report with FEMA for like a claim. Sorry, damage claim with FEMA, and by the time so when FEMA has these emergency declarations, there's the initial deadline, and then there's the deadline after the deadline, like, hey, you missed the deadline, but here's the real deadline. So nothing was filed after that second deadline, which I believe was November 25th of last year for this emergency. So I told him FEMA does have a couple exceptions that they'll make for people who are either out of town for the duration of the emergency declaration, or working, or or otherwise dealing with someone who's sick. So I said, you don't exactly meet those criteria, but I gave them the number for FEMA, and I had them call, to see what they could do, because essentially they, one could make the claim they misled him. Probably a bit of a stretch, but, see if it, was better than not calling. And, it seems like he didn't get, a good response there. So last, I drove by his place on my way to the dump, last week. And I believe I saw, it must have been Kevin, I didn't notice it was Kevin, but someone was going down there with a tractor and digging it out. So that's where I stand on it. Tim, I remember you said to me in passing that you had some thoughts on just the general matter of storm runoff going onto someone's lawn.
The long and the short of it is, and this is through the VLCT attorneys, I hadn't been certain whether the town had any sort of legal liability regarding the gravel. It was clearly, according to Jim Hayes, it was the town's gravel from the road that had washed onto the private property, so that presented a few conflicting issues. VLCT says there is likely no constitutional taking claim there, which is, a Fifth Amendment issue where the town takes a private property for a public use in this case being storage of the gravel. It's a little weird how the law can work, but VLCT attorney says that's not going to be an issue. And the only other claim he could have is a potential private civil damage claim for the loss of use of his lawn, but again, probably not worth the effort to pursue on his part. So legal liability, de minimis, meaning the town has relatively little obligation here. Now, what it decides to do anyway is a different question, but that's where we're at in that respect.
Ron,
Yes.
Dave Morrison, I've driven by and see what Kevin's up to there. I just wondered if Kevin pushes that gravel that's on the lawn into the town right away, would Jim pick it up with the excavator? It's kind of a half and half thing. Once it's within the town right away, it's ours again. That appeals to you all, Jim, or?
Well, my only concern with this whole thing is we didn't do anything for anybody else. And I don't see why we should make any exception to one individual when you have somebody there that's actually cleaning it up. So if you want the town to step in and take my time and go do that, then I'm more than happy to do it. But then you're gonna answer to Cindy Potter with her whole house being destroyed and her whole lawn being destroyed, and everybody else is in town. So, I mean, if you guys wanna do that, that's fine with me, I don't care.
Well, and he had mentioned to me at the end of our conversation that he had some people in mind that he was gonna reach out to and have them, remove it for him, because he didn't anticipate that he was gonna get any kind of assist here.
It's up to you guys.
I don't know if you like the town sweep or anything, but I drive by there often and I notice that Kevin is actually using the gravel in his own yard to fix up a driveway.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, he's putting it in place where
I didn't put that together, I saw those files there, Sean.
So does the board want to take any further action, or we made a decision? We made the decision already.
It sounds like it's being addressed.
Right, but you, in a previous meeting last year, you agreed that we weren't gonna.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be my feeling as well, as much as I feel for Mr. Barrett and the issues he's going through. I think there is a precedent we don't want to set, and it leads to potential other issues we'd really want to avoid, as Jim Hayes has just said. It would be my inclination to say, wish we could help, apologies, but we can't.
Yeah.
Lastly, I'd just like to say if there's no liability to the town, it might be nice to send Kevin a thank you letter.
Yeah, we could do that.
Thanks, Ron.
Assuming that's what the board would like to do.
Yeah, I have no objection.
I'm fully behind it. And thank you again.
All right, highway department report, update,
The
whatever.
only thing that, I just got back, where the weather's cooperating with us. So we're gonna start hitting them, grading, and, get the roads back in shape. And, get the spring cleaning finished up, like I said, we got sweeping. Once we get that done, we're gonna, we've got a bunch of washouts that we've got to, address. Some of it's left over from the flooding. We've got a couple spots on Duck Pond Road right near the school that are getting, they're getting concerned, because they're getting close to road, and they're so low that, we're just trying to balance out. If we get some rain, maybe they'll switch over to that. Other than that, we're gonna be resurfacing. We got 2 trucks now, we got 2 guys, and we're gonna all gravel and start building roads back up for all the material, the surface material that we lost. That's pretty much where we're at. We got some potholes, between the crossroad and stuff, we've been getting those, but we can't do those in the cold water. So a lot of the stuff we're doing now is depending on that.
Any questions for Jim? Board? I'd also thrown the town garage update in there. I don't know if you had heard anything, Suki, but
No, I have not heard anything. I received a previous phone call to the engineering department. Here's now. We have a time constraint here because we have to use that ARPA money up before the end of the year. So they want me to.
We have to have it appointed by the end of the year, we don't have to use it.
Contractually obligated.
Right. And so,
I-
he was, so the guy went up there, the engineer went up there, and he went up into the attic, and he moved it to stay with the current rafters and all that. So that was all good. He said actually they were engineered at the time, they're not engineered as well as they could be, that would be an easy fix. So he was going to use other measurements, and he was going to do some structural calculations, and that's what I'm waiting to hear from you. Okay, so what's the recommendation here? And so I don't want to just spout out whether there are agendas on the table up front.
I did, because we hadn't heard, and it's, it'll be 2 weeks this Wednesday. I emailed them, the engineering firm, this afternoon, and they wrote back to me, and they said that they hope to get us a report, not as fast as I had hoped, but they said in 4 weeks. And they asked if that was met our timetable, and I was going to, they said they might be able to rush it along, and so I was gonna write them back to say, we need it as soon as you can.
Yeah, would you like me to call them also, right?
You can if you like. I didn't ask that question because I was gonna, I figured it wasn't gonna matter too much. We're meeting tonight and just discuss it and get back to them tomorrow.
I'll go ahead and I will also email and I'll call to the message because sometimes if they get more than one person, they can understand the necessity for expediting.
All right.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
One, do we have a contract with them, and we don't issue?
We do.
And the second one is, did anybody reach out to the town about if we just use some because of the new complex up there? We see how their process works out.
We, Actually, let me see if I got it. The information you gave us, I don't know if it was last meeting or the meeting before. I had a question about it, but I probably don't have it.
Jackie over the building, in the building too.
Yeah.
Big one.
Oh, yeah, I do have it. Yeah, you mentioned Arthur Wood at E.H. Danson Associates. But I didn't. Yeah, I was gonna call him because I don't, either I'm reading this incorrectly, but the square foot cost, I don't think it can be $4,500 a square foot. And I,
I'm not an expert, I gave you his name because he is an expert.
okay, yeah, we could contact him to get some idea. Okay. All right, so Suki and I'll contact them and try to rush them along so we can hopefully move on to the next step. Anything else to do with highway department or town garage? If not, next up is fire department anniversary celebration. And Colin Pucci is here to provide any, just open for discussion.
Yeah, so obviously October is the 40th anniversary of the Waterford Fire Department. We're looking to have a fairly large celebration. So obviously put on an event, it's going to cost money. So my original thought was try to make this a large town-wide celebration. We did begin conversation on this about 6 months ago. We made the decision to downsize this event at this point. We do have a celebration committee through the fire department. That's been open to the public as well. We've had some public interest in being able to help with that. So the inquiry really has to do with would the select board be able to help support financially the fire department to host an event? Originally, we talked about maybe doing like a fireworks type thing and making it a large event where especially our new tank might be here by then. Again, we kind of due to time, we kind of downscale this thing a little bit. So right now, we're looking at 3 to 6 p.m. Celebration, fun and games, ice activities, food, and then from 6 to 8 p.m. There's going to be doing a large bonfire off to the left of the station in the dirt area there. We're going to do that and people who just come celebrate and s'mores or things like that. So, but obviously there's a cost to it, and maybe the town might be able to help offset some of the cost for us. T-shirts. Talk to the band, we're going to try to get some dignitaries from the state there, maybe the governor or something for us. Just to celebrate it. Our hope was that it wouldn't be the firefighters that were doing all the cooking and all those things, that they could actually be out mingling and talking to people and not be the ones doing the event, which is obviously going to require volunteers and outside of the fire department membership. So we're trying to find people that would be willing to help out. So.
Okay. I heard something about there might be some money that could be used from a grant that we'd already received.
So Heather advised that she got a grant for $4,000 from energy efficiency grant. So in order to use the fund there are some restrictions I believe on the money. I don't know the details. We arranged for a couple efficiency vendors to be there. hybrid vehicle type situation that's been arranged. Maybe like Green Mountain Power, maybe another company, different types of services for energy efficiency that, the public would be able to learn about at the event. So those vendors have to be there. I believe food is something that Heather said does qualify. I don't know if there's limits to how much, the utilization of the funds.
Yep.
But Heather did secure that and we offered for us to back into that. So we have some of those resources.
So it was a grant to train people about energy efficiency?
I don't have all the specific details, but, Heather.
It wasn't to fix something to make it more
I don't-
energy efficient.
I don't.
It didn't sound like it to me.
Educational.
It was a community.
Yeah.
Community education.
We did feel that food would be something that would be able to cover underneath it. I don't know band, I don't know these other things, cost of putting on an event, what other things might be covered under it. But I have to move some restrictions to get that.
Yeah.
And so we'd like some help promoting it. We'd love to make it a community event, like I said. So I think we asked for being, it was outside of this grant, the restrictions of the grant, would there be some funds available from the town to help us put on a 40th anniversary celebration to celebrate that fund?
Now, it's my understanding that there's nothing, maybe you asked at budget time last year, but there's nothing in the budget for this.
I was brought up and we were told there was no money.
Was there anything brought up at the budget time or?
We had a meeting in last October, and we brought up then, and we told them to total this fund.
Can I ask the board, I thought when we had discussed this or open discussions in one of the last meetings, there was a hint that fireworks might be located for low cost or free. Did I mishear that, or does somebody have a connection there? No? Am I imagining things?
I don't remember that. Let me see if I wrote any notes.
I thought somebody had said there was a local fireworks person who puts these shows on and they might be willing to donate the setup and the material costs.
I know there's a company, is it North Star Fireworks? Okay, it's the same as the.
Yeah, it's, no, I don't recall.
North Star Fireworks?
You're talking,
Like-
you're talking big buck.
My notes, what meeting was this? April 14th meeting.
That
My
sounds
notes on the fire department 40th anniversary. I do have a note that says, Tim will talk to Heather about legalities of fundraisers. And the
Yeah,
money
that's-
being able to be used
Yeah.
for this.
Is that all you have there?
Just can get some donations for the celebration, but I don't have anything specifically saying fireworks.
Colin, if we could locate low cost or no cost fireworks, I presume that would be interesting to you?
Absolutely, many years ago, we would have fireworks at the Waterford school. They'd have a celebration throughout the year. I forget what that end of year or whatever it was.
End of year celebration.
End of year celebration. And the community would come together, be, several hundred people there from the school and the community. We'd have the fire chief has the authority to sign a fireworks permit. The company would set them off down in the lower field. We'd block off the perimeter. It's a great place to do it. Again, the original thought was to make this community, right? And have different parts of the community having representation and not just making it a fire department thing. But again, we kind of scaled that back, and I think if we could do something with fireworks, I think people would enjoy it.
Well, I'm happy to make some calls and dig around a little bit and see what's what in the fireworks department area. So just for getting started, North Star Fireworks is sort of the local purveyor of
It's the only one I know.
Fireworks.
I don't know if anybody else knows the area.
They're out of Barry.
Yeah, they're in Barry and
There's
Bradford.
no one in London doing this.
No, they closed it.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. I figured, You know, so even aside from the fireworks, you know, just the general offset of cost of fireworks is not attainable. But, you know, just offset the cost to the other things to put the event on. Yes.
My notes also say that we discussed the possibility of a mailer sent out to residents asking for donations, but that would rely on what Heather said about being able to collect and spend donations for that purpose. So it's all back on you, Tim.
I'm actually ready to discuss that next step when we get to purchasing policy.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember everybody from Kate's Junior.
I'm sorry?
Everybody's over at Winterville, Rick Kate's Junior, I think. He does catering.
Okay.
He does it for large crowds of people. And his dad does live here in Waterford.
No. What's his name?
Rick Kate's.
Thanks. What I can share is that Rabbit Inn is scheduled, and they're offering to do a few things for the department. I don't want to say exactly what they have been finalized. I haven't been in communication with them. It sounds like they really want to be part of this event and celebrate. So, hope more details on what that's going to look like in the future.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what the board, other thoughts the board has, or you don't have any idea what kind of dollar figure you're looking at.
I don't have a budget, that's the problem. You know, we're trying to identify things and time
Yep.
is the essence. You know, we're looking at food trucks, but you know, again, how big do we want this to be? And food trucks are busy, you know, they need to schedule. So we,
Even October?
you know, especially, it's holiday time.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were talking about that type of providing food, or you were talking about
We were originally.
volunteers.
Well, we were originally talking food trucks, and then we had to pare it back. And so we're thinking, you know, if we can have volunteers provide food, so we're talking in the Elks Club, prepare the food, and then we have people serve, volunteers to serve the food. You know, we do have, you know, talking about maybe a chili festival, where people could make a chili, and the fire department members would vote on the chili. You know, there's still some finer details to be worked out, but at least engage in the dialogue of, do we have some budget to work with them?
But it is a circular thing. You need to know how much money you need to know how much money to budget. You need to know how much, it's a circular tail chasing a tail thing.
The chili festival is an interesting one because it's essentially
A
an
competition.
incentivized potluck. So you're looking at the, you know, cost of awards at that point. So,
You know, but that's on the celebration committee to put this whole thing together. I'm trying not to get involved to that micromanaged level of it. So, you know, but we know we have some money. For that 4,000, how much we can use and exactly within restrictions. But it would be helpful for us to know, to have a band, you know, we pay all around power for the, all around, for the bounty house. At what level do we have, you know, all the fire safety stuff coming from the state, the fire safety house, all this, you know. Excuse me, so we're gonna make it an educational event for them.
Are you intending it to run as a soft fundraiser as well?
That would be wonderful if we do the food, we still do donations, even if the food is free, you know, people can donate.
Well, food is one thing, but the fire department, it sounds like it would be happy to receive donations for its purposes as well.
We're always happy to receive them.
Right, but are you intending to set up the event as a soft
Not necessarily,
ask?
not necessarily.
we do 50/50, that's an easy way to.
It could be a ticketed event that people purchase tickets to go to.
If everybody wants to step up and help sell tickets and help arrange it, okay,
Well, I presume what you want though is a good turnout, so people know that we have an active fire department and it's valuable in the community for so many reasons. And it sounds like what you could also use is getting the word out, the advertising. And I don't know how the board can help with that, but I imagine there's tools.
Advertising's key. We've had the conversation on retention, recruitment and retention. To go another 40 years, we need the next generation of firefighters. We need them now. So the more people we can get there, the more residents, the exposure, advertising, all those costs, giveaways, whatever it's going to be.
I think you could charge to get in, the block party even charges to get in for the library, so I don't know why you couldn't sell tickets at a general amount so people could go. Charge to get in.
Again, we need to know Heather's opinion on fundraising and how that money can be spent.
She and Colin and I have been talking and planning and scheming, and there's things in the works.
I can tell you, I was part of the 20th, 30th, wasn't there for the 35th, I took some time off. It's always been more of a community event, never really a particular event, pay for admission type thing. Put online.
So one meeting or another, I asked about rainy day funds, and there aren't any. And my next question would be, are there any surplus funds in the budget? And if there are there any legal ways to move that money towards an event?
It's usually used to offset taxes or something, and I believe you can correct me, because it's not. Some of it was set aside to help with the garage this year. Your surplus, but the other surplus is always used in the town.
Now, one thing that you seem to be describing like a reserve fund, and I know a lot of towns this past year town meeting approved those for their upcoming fiscal year budget. That's an item that I put on my priority list of something that the select board should look into. Just in general, have X amount of the tax funds go into a reserve fund at the end of the year that we have to set up where we can and can't put it, but just rainy day fund or a reserve fund in the event of emergencies that need to be covered, or perhaps if at the end of a fiscal year there are no emergencies, we could use some for a celebration of some kind.
So I guess to give a specific example, I'm all about getting a new town garage, but is there any way, because that doesn't sound like it's gonna happen right off this year, is there any way to borrow money from that fund to help pay for the?
It's all grants that's strictly attached to that. That's all. We've already.
Yeah, about Debbie Powers or Scott Beck, can they get any money?
How's the upcoming talk? Are you bringing the legislator?
Bringing the legislature.
Please, have they governor come?
Yeah, what we've done is we've received flags from the state before on celebrating anniversary that have flown over, the State House, over the White House, flown flags that were in Afghanistan. So different types of things, just a recognition that the state will usually do some sort of thing, those types of things. So we'll definitely invite, and I'll talk to some individuals or recommend people from the popular individuals for the outreach.
Colin, maybe you've already said so, but it would help to have it clarified. What is your primary objective or top 3 objectives of the 40th celebration? What do you want to see happen? What do you want to accomplish? Short version, 30 words or less.
Community. I would like to see people get behind the community events and celebrate the fire department and understand the value of what the fire department really brings. Yes, we go to fires, yes, we go to EMS calls, but beyond that, the tax savings that several of the residents of the town benefit from from the ISO ratings. Matter of fact, we're in the middle of an ISO audit as I speak. They're coming on June 4th, and the amount of work that goes into that. You know, understanding the true value of the department and how everybody in the town benefits from the fire department. I think the town really does support the fire department. They have for 40 years. And for me, that continuation is very important. I've alluded to before, I'm on the downward slope of my tenure of the fire department. I've been on for 24 years. And I know that it's important that we try to build that pipeline for the future. And I look at these officers, a lot of gray hair, okay? And we need to try to build that pipeline so we can move on.
That was more than 30 words.
Sorry. With the three things, not a lot of track.
Question, I know that we've been talking about that there's something in the firehouse that needs repairs, and that there is a repair budget. Did the money all get spent on the repairs?
Hasn't been done yet. It's next on the agenda.
We're gonna take some of that money, if it's left over, and put it towards, put it towards this program.
I don't think there's money enough. They had, we're on to our next subject, but, on that, but, the repairs haven't been done. And I think their repair, the fire department's repair budget, they probably already had, I think they already had items that they intended to repair prior to discovering the problem, I think.
Are we moving on to that?
So the short of it
Well-
is, it's all used up.
Well, it hasn't been yet, but it's probably more than spoken for. But are we done with the celebration discussion for now, or, I mean, I don't know, I just don't, you know, I can see supporting, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to say, you know, how much money do you need? And then if, you know, once you know that, then is there a place in the budget that money could be, you know, that's gonna be under, it's gonna run under, that could be used?
When does your celebration committee meet next?
Monday, this upcoming Monday, I think they met.
I know you said you're trying to let them do their thing, but do you know if they expect to have like a final, or at least a mostly final idea of what they want the end product to be, and what we can start to look at?
I think they're making headway on that. They
Okay.
are, you know, for me, it's easier to have a number going in to know, hey, you know, you get $2,500 to play with, you get $10,000 to play with. Okay, versus we need this until you get told no, and now you're going backwards again. Okay?
When do you anticipate needing to have a budget and start committing funds to the?
6 months ago.
Ideally, but you want to hire vendors or get some other costly items in, and what's the timeline for those?
As soon as possible.
I think
Seriously?
Seriously.
Okay.
As soon as possible.
I would like to see the committee come up with some amounts, so we know something to work with, not just ask us, the town or the select board, to come up with some funds. I think they need to have some idea how much the band's gonna cost, or this is gonna cost, or that's gonna cost, and or how much volunteers they're gonna get, or maybe you need to put something out now, even something in the paper or on the town fire department's Facebook page, that you're doing this and asking for donations to help, and put a date out there. I think there's some other ways to just come and ask for funds when you don't really know what you're gonna spend it on and how much things are gonna cost you, I think is, I'm putting the cart before the horse.
I just have one last thing, Kelco, the bakery, the Fenoffs, Matthews businesses in town. Have you approached them to see if they would be willing?
I have not personally met the children. I know it's not several people.
What I wanted to suggest is Facebook, the paper are okay, but that's a kind of the population you want to hit. You gotta get those businesses like Kingdom Coffee, Jang's, the woman who does the cookies, that have really great interactive Instagram posts, pages, there's no business. I mean, old people go to Facebook and paper, and I say that because I go to Facebook. But
I know because I am old.
yeah, so you need to like kind of get those people just to start advertising for you, because you need to get involvement and like come to the, the block party like, there. Because getting people involved around here, we all know it sucks. Like there's 3 people on the WSA. There's, nobody wants to do anything anymore. And it's gonna take a while to even put on the calendar because they got kids. They're gonna find another reason they're gonna have a soccer game or something.
Right.
So.
Get some flyers made up and I'll pass them out to
Yeah.
transfer station.
That's it, right.
Chief, locally social is the manager one. They're in St. John's, we're getting all help out.
All right, well,
That's all good feedback. I think that's what we need.
okay, so, move on to the repairs.
Sure.
Do you know what needs to be done and how much it's gonna cost?
No. So that's part of the challenge here has become that the fire department is a town-owned building. And so, we brought the issues to the select board. I don't know the first thing about plumbing, heating, installation. More concerned that this has happened for the last 2 years. And before there's a frozen pipe that ruptures and we have a much bigger claim, wanted to make the select board aware of it. So you folks who own the building could take care of whatever. It's not a furnace cleaning situation. It's a concern that is nothing that I'm an expert in. But it's absolutely a concern. And now is the time to, everybody has an opinion of what needs to happen. But I think at the end of the day, we need to have somebody who deals with plumbing and heating, identify this is their recommendation. People are saying we need, 8, 12 inches of cellulose. Again, this is personal opinion. I think at the end of the day, it's in the best interest to bring in the professionals to, solve the problem. If it was my house, I would be on the phone to, my plumbing and heating company and saying, hey, this is a situation, let's talk, and have them look at it.
So are you suggesting that it's, as a town-owned building, it's the select board that should be contacting?
Yes.
Because you could be right, but how is that different than some of your other repair things, like your windows and doors that I believe you're working?
On the garage doors?
Yeah.
So those are things that are easily done. Those are things that we have relationships with garage door companies to put them. Because we don't have the budget for it. We did get a tacit grant. So we have a $2,500 budget for building maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay, that $2,500 budget is compressor repairs. Okay, that's air compressors for the brakes on the trucks. Excuse me, it's other things that might go wrong around the firehouse. That budget's not designed for a large potential exposure to insulation in a major furnace pipe situation. Yes, when we did the ARPA repairs, okay, we painted, Howard painted the entire building. We went through and we did all that. We did that with put the floor in and had to really take care of those things. I'm not in a position to go deal with the plumbing and heating and installation. I don't have time to
I was just asking how those types of things are different than this.
I think there's a much bigger expense here as well. Potentially.
But there's still no estimate, which this happened in January and you say it happened the year before. We should know a cost to fix it.
So folks, I kind of mentioned this before, there's 5 people up there. You know, somebody should be the public safety chair, somebody should be the personnel chair, somebody should be the chairman of the highway department. And in my humble opinion, whoever would be the public safety chair or the chair of accountability should be calling up somebody like Robert Lawson and having him down there to get an estimate for the town on what it would cost to make the repairs to make the place safe and functional.
Okay. I mean, does anybody on the board want to,
I'd just like to say that that's not how we set up the budget. So Jim also has a town building and he's not responsible for the renovations, yet that is where it is budgeted. Even though it's only $2,500 in repairs, that is in the fire department budget. This is an unforeseen situation. It's unfortunate, but stuff like this happens to budgets all the time. Who do you suggest we steal the funds from to pay for your repairs?
That's not my decision to make.
But you have the $2,500. I know it's earmarked for other things. We should at least at this point in the process have an estimate of how much it's going to cost and how much we're going to be over
I'm not disagreeing.
budget.
I'm not disagreeing.
You shouldn't have to steal the money from anywhere. Somebody should take the responsibility to call up a vendor who is an expert in the area that we need fixed. And then once we have a estimate, or 2 or 3 estimates, like I have to do at my job, then we put them before the board here, and we see if the town's willing to give up the money to fix it, and then we vote on who we're gonna get to do it. That would be the proper way, in my opinion, to go after it.
You know, and I'm gonna tie Jim into this, because we've also had situations where the pump, the pump is behind the water house, and the town garage gets fed off of that same pump. There have been a couple times in the last couple winters where he's froze up and had no water either. So I think it's more than just, hey, you got one issue here. I think it's multiple issues, and I think the right company, the right people need to be involved. And I don't think that's something I'm in a position of now.
Well, Colin, sort of sitting over here thinking, I'm happy to start chasing this problem around. I don't really understand the scope of it yet. It seems like you're discussing 2 potential issues here. One is the water that comes up out of the wellhead and goes into your building, correct? And that pipe freezes occasionally?
The one that goes to the town garage freezes.
So you don't have an issue with that, but getting to the town garage might be a problem. What?
Potentially, yeah.
Too shallow, it freezes, you don't know.
We find out some of that. And splitting the only possible spot that you could be running into trouble is where those catch basins are. I mean, those spring.
Right.
And if you insulate that, that should help that. But
Okay, but the other issue is you've got some plumbing that's up in the ceiling and you think it's poorly insulated, it's become frozen, and that's an issue.
Yeah, there's some pipes up in the attic space.
Has anybody been up there to actually look at it? Do you
Yeah.
have photos?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have photos?
Possibly. Yeah, somewhere. The pipe is wrapped and it's in insulation and it's still freezing.
So the first question I have is, would electric heat tape alleviate this at all? I hear you say you don't know, but
electrical big, I have no faith in.
yeah, we need to throw out solutions tonight. We just need to,
Fair
somebody has to,
I think
If-
someone needs to get a plumber,
if-
whether it's Ron Lawson or, I don't know if Andy Hill does that. Andy does that. Andy did the building down here and was kind to the town. I think you need to reach out to at least those 2 people and have them come in, look at the situation, tell you what needs to happen, give you an estimate. So there's 2, and think of a third one.
well, let's hear it. Are there third names?
I'm trying to think of
Are you
it.
mechanical, Harris Plumbing?
Who's that?
Are you mechanical?
Trombley.
Trombley.
You got all
Trombley,
kinds of.
And Heather Trombley.
Harris Plumbing up in
Lyndon,
Lindenville.
Johnson, Plumbing, and
Maybe.
Okay, that's enough. Yeah, I got it. So regular plumbers, nothing
Yeah.
special here. Okay,
I just want to say that we should try to use vendors from our town.
that would be my first preference.
And Andy Hill and Lawson are both.
So Joe Giddings.
Oh, yeah,
Joe
Joe Giddings.
Giddings.
Giddings,
Okay,
So the only concern that I have is that, Chief, sorry, I'm gonna throw it back on you a
Go
little
ahead.
bit. I know with my agency, if something goes wrong in the building, I take care of it. It's not my building, it's the state of Vermont's. Okay, you know the building, you should be the one that's getting the estimates and bringing it back to us. I realize you're volunteering, I respect that,
Mhm.
thank you. But you know the building, and you should probably talk with Jim, because you two know the two problems. So you guys speak with Andy Hill and the others that have been discussed, get three, and then bring it back to us with what needs to be fixed. Instead of us being the middleman and having to go to you, what's the problem, go to Jim, what's the problem? I think if you guys could make this happen next month, I know Andy's busy, but you get there. And I don't know your time constraints, but that's what I would.
I don't know if you agree with me, but the way they need, you'd be better off taking this guy's advice and getting all the information yourself, and then give it to him and say, do something or else.
I'm happy to call,
thanks for your vote, Tom.
so I'm happy to call. So, if that's the board's recommendation, that I will find myself or one of the other officers in the department can put time to get into what's going on.
well, logistically, it makes sense to operate that way because you're there and you can schedule the time to be there for somebody to get in and look. I'm happy to do the footwork, but then I am the middleman in a process that involves a lot of phone calls back and forth with you and,
No, that's fine.
okay. Then I'll consider that a done deal. Reach out if you think you want more help.
So, as far as the budget goes of $2,500, right, we did get a passive grant this year, and that passive grant allowed for energy efficiencies. So we have spent most of that $2,500 above and beyond. We were able to get some money for repairs paid for through the passive grant. We're using the rest of that budget to offset the rest of the costs. So garage door seals, all the seals around the doors. There's a lot of heat loss because of seals in windows and things like that in the firehouse. So we're trying our best with that money to not only deal with things that we need to deal with, but the building related items as well that were not part of it.
I just go get an
Yeah,
estimate and
it's-
dump it on their table, and let them figure out where they're gonna get the money from.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it has to be fixed. I mean, nobody wants the pipes to burst. It's just, I would agree with Wade that it seems to make more sense than, you know, one of us calling a plumber.
And I think at the end of this, most important that you're aware of the situation. As you know, ultimate responsibility, we're aware of the situation. If there is a water leak and you'd have a large insurance claim.
Oh, no,
We avoided it.
I certainly agree that it needs to be fixed. It's, and fixed before next winter, not to roll the dice another winter.
So, Jim, we're gonna have to coordinate. I mean, I know what's going on on my side. It's, I've got Howard, who's our health guy, and he's pretty well versed in things as well. So, but we'll figure something. Okay.
Okay, next up, municipal code of ethics.
Can we go back on the building? I don't know what Colin met with some of the select board, back in 2018. We noticed that the roof of the fire department had some spots, rust spots, about the size of a $50. At that time, the building was 18 years old. The roofing had a 20-year guarantee. So I went back to the company that installed the roofing, which was Rod Roofing. Talked to Tino, brought this information to the board. The board, I don't know, decided it wasn't important, I guess. But the roof back in 2018 had these rust spots. Casey said that looks just like it got hailstone on it. And back in 18, I don't know if anybody remembers, but Wyndham State College got nailed with a lot of hail. And Waterford got a little bit, I guess, in a couple of places, but I guess our fire department got quite a bit of it. And there's thousands of these spots on our roof. Casey looked up the roofing company. They're out of business. We only had 2 more years. They probably would have gave us a couple $100 towards a new roof. What more? Done nothing to put funds for a rainy day to replace that roof. Some days you're gonna have to do that.
What kind of roof is it? Standing seam or galvanized
Standing seam
sheets?
roof, yes. We got a few prices of repainting the roof at the time.
That was my question.
I remember it was around $800 to $900. The other one was like 20,000 something.
20,000 to replace?
No, paint. So I went back and asked the gentleman what he was planning on doing for the $800 to $900, and he never got back to me. And I gave all that information to the board, and nothing has been done for 6, 7 years now.
Well, to echo Howard, in 2023, I know it was a different select board, but it was also brought up in 2023 when we were doing the FERPA, the floor, the painting, the things that we talked about earlier that we've done. This roof discussion was brought up to the select board back then.
I would strongly suggest that somebody at the fire department go through and make a list of all these things and the estimates and the cost and give them to the lady and gentleman up there so they can figure out how to afford to tackle it.
Okay. Municipal Code of Ethics. Did you have something on that, Sue?
Yes, yes, but there is this Act 171 established a statewide municipal code of ethics. And we can adopt that. It's the minimum standard, and we can expound upon it with a supplemental policy if we wish. But we do have to post it on our website. And I was chosen as the ethics liaison, but at this time, they have not contacted me, and I just went on their website, and they still have no information for ethics liaisons. And I'm worried that we won't get it anytime soon because they have an announcement, suspension of municipal services. With regret, due to a lack of staffing, the State Ethics Commission can no longer provide advisory and complaint services to municipalities. So apparently they lost this particular group of people that was supposed to support us in all of this.
But we're still.
I was wondering why I never got an email, because back when I was selected by the select board to be the ethics liaison, I sent them an email introducing myself, and they sent me back a very nice email saying that they would get back to me with all of the information that I needed. And I have not yet heard from them. But now, after reading the website, I'm not expecting to hear from them anytime soon because they have no staffing. But what we can do is post visibly at the town clerk's office and on our website the state municipal code of ethics, which is the minimum that Act 171 requires us. Now, if we take a look at it, and I haven't yet, if we take a look at it and see a deficiency, we can adopt a supplemental policy. But at this time, Vermont League of Cities and Towns does not have a template for us to follow or use. So
We're required to adopt this.
the thing is, it's the minimum standard according to the act. So if we post the state municipal code of ethics, it is the town of Waterford's code of ethics. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't say that we have to write our own policy. It
Yeah.
says that we are allowed to have supplemental policies with additional information as long as it doesn't contradict the state standard
My
requirement.
question is really around if we adopt the policy language from the state or however the policy language is adopted, we then have obligations to follow through on it.
We have obligations because of the law to follow the state municipal code of ethics.
Yep.
Whether or not we have a town one, we're required at a minimum to follow the state.
In your opinion, are we doing so now?
I don't know, I'm the liaison, I was waiting for liaison information and never got it.
I'm just wondering if we're gonna need
Be
some
ethical,
retraining.
there is training, it's on the website. That's people free, so we can still get our 45-minute training, which we are all required to take.
Is there a deadline when this has to be out there?
I think didn't we say November or September 15th? There was some date that we had for the training.
The training is September, but it's
September.
to adopt, either adopt and have a supplemental. Is there a deadline for that?
Mm-mm. It says we may want to survey our existing complaint policies to make sure that we meet the new requirement. So we do have a complaint piece. Is that in our personnel policy? I think that it is, but I don't think it's ethics. I think it's sexual.
It's a separate
I think it's
policy, but it's on the
harassment.
website. Yeah, it's on the website.
Yeah.
It's only about a one-pager, I believe.
Yeah, and I don't know the last time it was updated, so
I want to say it was 2011.
that's what I was thinking.
The municipal ethics training is an online municipal code of ethics training that you can find on their website.
Sue,
September 25th, 2025.
you as the liaison, have you reached out to the other people who are also required to take it? Because I know when.
I have not, I know all of us are required to.
There's a list on there, I think listed.
It says existing municipal officers,
So,
existing municipal officers.
Heather and I have taken it already.
Okay,
When you do that ethics training, I believe it's on the last page, it asks about an email address, who you have to report it to, and that would be my address, because I have to keep track
okay.
of who takes it and when, because it's required, I think, every 3 years or something like that.
So we have to give your address when we take the training?
Yeah, and then it automatically sends you a notification.
It's town
that says,
clerk at waterfordbt.gov.
So and so took their training,
One word, town clerk?
town clerk at waterfordbt.gov.
So back, not the training part, but
Right.
the other part.
The code of ethics is a statewide municipal code of ethics.
But is it something that you want to look at and then come back and advise?
It's a document, correct? Did they send you a poster or any type of material that you're supposed to post it?
I have nothing in the office. No, I haven't.
They were supposed to send me information, and like I said, I've received zero, and now knowing they have a staffing shortage, it's not gonna happen.
May I make another suggestion that somebody send all 5 of you a copy of the information and the documents, and that you study up and take your course, and then maybe just simply adopt the state's code of ethics, and then it'd be a done issue.
That
Two
is our
separate
sense.
They were aware of it.
Yeah,
We have a link.
It's just find 45 minutes to do the course and the other.
Yeah.
Document it. And, yeah. So the issue, the process as I see is we need to minimally adopt the state's language for the ethics policy and decide that we need to supplement it for Waterford purposes.
I know we need to know if we need to decide if we want to supplement it. But I believe because of Act 171 and it being the statewide municipal code of ethics, I think it can be that is the policy.
Yeah. And the
It
question
says
is,
if you don't have one, you must adopt one. And you can just use this as a base, as a starting point.
Yeah. and VLCT does not have language they recommend? Okay.
No, there's a state, it's written.
Okay.
policy.
Seems fairly straightforward then.
Yeah, we just adopt them now. Is that something we can do tonight, or do we still need to see the language?
I'd like to see the language
Yeah, I
and see
agree.
what needs to be amended,
Mhm.
if anything.
It really is just presented as a statute, it's like 3 pages.
PDF version of the municipal code of ethics.
So we need to, as a board, we need to look at it before next.
It's for almost it's five pages long.
Can you send it around in an email?
Sure.
Thanks.
So we'll vote on either just adopting that one or whether we decide whether we need to.
Yeah. Agreed.
Supplement.
Hannah, sounds like an agenda item.
Got it.
Okay. Personnel policy review. I guess I was the one who asked to put this on. And after I did, there's a number of things that, number of thoughts that I had about it. But a lot of them aren't covered under the personnel policy. It's more of a housekeeping thing. Well, before I mention those, I read through the personnel policy, and one thing that's, there are some areas that need some clarification, like use of bereavement leave when on probationary status. It wasn't clear on bereavement leave. It's pretty clear on vacation and sick leave when you're on probationary status, but it wasn't clear on bereavement leave part of it.
When you say it was clear on use of vacation and sick leave, what does the personal policy say that's different when you're in your probationary period about those two versus when you're not?
That under when you're for vacation time, you start, I better get to it before I say something that's incorrect. You start earning it from the date of hire, but it can't be used until after the successful completion of the 6-month probation period. So you're earning it, so after you've cleared probation, you can use it, but not until then.
I just wonder if there's a way to cut to the chase. It sounds like we need to do some editing or amending in the policy, and I'm wondering if you're positioning yourself as someone who might do that.
Oh, yeah, I don't mind making a recommendation and see if the board agrees. I can go through some of the other things.
Regarding bereavement leave specifically, though, are you suggesting that at all that employees on probationary period not be allowed to use bereavement leave in the same way they're not allowed to use vacation leave?
No, I wasn't suggesting that at all. I was just saying that the policy isn't clear. And because the policy isn't clear, we have a person on probationary status who, put in for bereavement leave, and because it didn't disallow that when you're on probationary period, he was allowed to use it. I'm just saying that ought to be clarified, so there's no question, if it was clear in the policy, the question wouldn't have even come up.
The other issue recently was whether or not someone in probationary period is entitled to cost of living raise.
Yeah, that's.
That's not clear in the policy either.
So, best of all worlds would be, Ron, if you're making amendments or changes, what you could send around a red line markup copy so we can see what's the original and what's the edits are that you proposed.
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Thanks for being volunteered for this.
No, it's, and there's some other things that are personal, like, not to get into a long discussion about them tonight.
That's not an action item tonight.
Well, yeah, I guess it's not.
I mean, if you're looking for approval to even do this, you have mine.
Oh, to go through it and make suggested revisions? Okay. Yeah, and the other things that I had were not under, they weren't actually contained within the personnel policy, but there's a few things that I think we should look at. Usually health insurance is brought up when we're preparing budgets. And talking with Heather suggested, when we're doing the budget, it's a little late to be looking to see, well, should we change from Blue Cross Blue Shield to, some other plan?
Not proactive enough there.
Yeah, we need to start researching things like that now, so we're prepared at the time budgets come up.
So hang on, that sounds like a whole separate process, and we ought to take it seriously.
Yeah, I forgot where I guess it must have been Heather that told me, Blue Cross Blue Shield is predicted to, the rates go up 15 to 20% for calendar year 2026. So, and it may not be any cheaper to get it out, somewhere else, but it's just something I think that we ought to think about, looking into.
Well, I don't want to bog down in this tonight, but can VLCT help us in this? Is there some way that we can purchase group policies and knuckle the insurance providers for better rates?
Not through VLCT,
Not through VLCT,
they don't offer health insurance,
through the state organization?
they don't offer health insurance.
So every municipality is on their own on this? That seems like an oversight.
So sticking with using for people from town, why would you contact Mike Barrett and have him do an analysis for you of Blue Cross, Cigna, and MVP? And then you can see what the cheapest is. That's what we do at the nursing home.
I believe he did that 2 years ago, and I believe Colin was in the process. That's when Colin was using the insurance, and Colin had a whole comparison, but it was presented at the night that the budget was going to be done, and it couldn't be accepted.
That's way too late.
Exactly. But Colin had all the numbers, and he did comparisons, and he could do it through he had Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I'm sure he and Mike Barrett, but.
Are you saying Mike Barrett was instrumental in putting?
Mike was on board at the time, and I believe Steve was in on it. He had Colin do some analysis from different insurance companies
What year was that?
2 years ago.
So dated, but maybe partly useful,
You could reach out to Colin and ask him,
or Mike?
or Mike.
I'm
But they
not,
were both in on that. It was not this budget. It was the budget before, so it was 2022, the fall of 2022 for the budget of 23. They did all that, and they
all
presented,
of 22, so we're really 3 years out.
and it was also looking at going to two-person, or not two-person, but not having 100%, having 80-20, like most employees do, not pay 100% like the town does here.
Yeah.
So they had done all that comparison, but when it was presented, it was like November or December, and there couldn't be enough discussion
Absolutely.
done about it.
Yep.
I can send you the Word document for the personnel policy, because that, what you have is PDF, and you won't be able to
Okay.
make the line changes, so I will email you that.
Okay. And I'll contact Mike.
Regarding the insurance issue?
Regarding insurance.
Well, that's a start. I'm not saying I want to get involved, but I don't want to let it slide either. I mean,
Well, I can let you be involved if you want.
well, I'll let you take the first step and let's
Okay.
talk.
All right. The other things that aren't on the personnel policy, but and I realize I'm not trying to generate discussions, but I think there's a couple of things that should be considered is moving to bi-weekly payroll system and direct deposit of paychecks. Most places have at least, well, maybe I shouldn't say most places. Because I only really, after I got out of school, there was only two places I worked. One was the state of Vermont and one was a consulting engineering firm, but you didn't, well, when I started with the state, you could get paper checks, but they went to direct deposit and they've always been, well, at least for the last 40 plus years, they've been on a bi-weekly payment system. So I think it's something, it would save some payroll costs.
Is bi-weekly half the work of weekly payroll?
I would assume,
You could ask more Sal, he would know.
I was asking if bi-weekly paychecks is half the work of weekly paychecks.
Take me the same time to do 80 hours, and it'll take you to do 40 hours.
But you're only doing it approximately twice a month.
Twice a month.
Twice a month.
The cost of checks and sending.
With direct deposit. Yeah.
So for history's sake, I can tell you that this issue was looked at by the first board that I was on. What year was that, Kathy? 2021, 2, 3? 2022. And there were only 2 employees at the time it was looked at, which was Jim and his coworker Sean. And both of them were adamantly opposed, and so the board did not go with it because there were only 2 impacted at the time. But now we have Clam, you're only paid once a month. So that wouldn't apply. But at any rate, I just want to say that the select board took this up before because there were only 2 employees impacted and they were opposed.
What were the reasons for opposition?
And asked
I
Jim.
just don't prefer the automatic pay stuff.
I can tell you the direct
I want
deposit.
check in my hand. I don't want direct deposit. You look at all the scams and all the stuff going on. I'm old school. I want to check in my hand so I can take it to the bank or do whatever I please with.
What about 1 week versus 2 week pay period?
I prefer the 1 week myself.
All right, but let me dig into that. Why 1 week instead of 2 weeks?
I just prefer the 1 week. You work that week, you get paid that week.
yeah,
It's always been.
I just think it saves money.
How
It
much would it
saves,
save?
I don't know how much it would save. People wouldn't have to be picking up their checks at the town clerk's office. I understand, hacking and all that kind of stuff, but
Yeah, I don't, this is modern.
no, I mean, I understand there is hacking.
Lots
I
of
don't,
times your money's there the day before you would get your paycheck. You get it a day in advance. And when you go online, do your online banking, you move it from this account to that account, you go to an ATM, you draw your cash, and it's there. The academy made everybody go to direct deposit.
Unless the academy.
And
So this is
99% of your employees are direct deposit.
John?
probably the first time I'm gonna disagree with Jim. It's nice to have employee input, but you folks are the leaders and you have to do what's best for the town, which is gonna save us the most money, because we could take that money that we save from the payroll and we could put it to the fire department. We could put it to the town garage. So you need to be looking at ways to be able to save money, and even if Jim is against it, it may be in the town's best interest to do it anyway, and he's still gonna get paid.
I just wonder what the cost savings is, that's all.
It would be
I don't know.
significant.
I don't know. Yes, David.
Dave Morrison, I'm with Jim, just, I always just worked hourly all my life, and there's something positive about just being able to pick up that envelope at the end of 1 week or 2 weeks, doesn't matter. But I am against the direct deposit, just Social Security is the only time that's ever happened to me, and I'm glad to get that, but.
It's saves you stuff of having.
You still get an envelope with your pay stub, and it's a choice. It's not a direct demand. You choose whether you want direct deposit or a paper check as an employee.
No.
You don't, not
necessarily.
not a lot, not everywhere.
No.
I have people who
Yep.
get a paper check, and I have people who get direct deposit.
And that's your company's choice, but there are companies that say everybody's direct deposit.
And I just think, Suki Watson here, and I just think, I agree, we need to look at operational efficiency here.
And I also think that it's something that auditors have brought up in the past too. So,
When I work building furniture, the only way you're gonna get paid is direct deposit.
and I understand when you get a weekly paycheck, thinking of going to bi-weekly, it's like, yeah, you're not gonna like it at first, but I mean, I got used to it.
You're to budget your money.
I want to say that I hear everybody's thoughts and opinions about it, and I am in favor of what will be efficient and cost saving. And I don't know what that's going to be yet, but that would be my leaning. It is the 21st century. And
But anyways, I didn't mean to start such a,
Right,
such a
that's not an action
discussion.
item.
It's not an action item. And I was gonna try to get out here quicker tonight, but.
Maybe
So-
since you started it, you should take on the research project of what it would save the town if they.
Oh, I'm sure I could, yeah, I can do that. I'm sure,
Thanks, Jim, or Ron.
no, it's something I've thought about for a while, and I talked with Marcel a little bit about it, and Heather and some, and I'm sure they can help me find out how much the savings might be. But anyways, let's move on to purchasing policy review.
Yeah, that was at my request, and thanks, Ron, for leaving it on. I intend to make this quick tonight, not an action item tonight. But I have compared our policy, which is deficient in a lot of ways, with other town policies, some of which are very detailed and potentially useful as a template. I've talked at length with Heather about ways that we could improve our policy and make it more efficient for both the road foreman and the road crew, and for the fire department and any other area in which we have major purchases in the town. And I don't want to get down into the weeds or at any granular level tonight, but I would volunteer myself to start making edits and put it before the board in a proposal form for input and thoughts and potential action item at a later point. Also occurs to me that because the road department would be involved, Will might have a lot of ways to assist and help as well, as the road department is a major purchaser unit.
Yeah,
So that's,
we'll keep in touch.
Yeah.
I think we should
tackle this together.
The main point to take home is that I would be working hand in hand with the treasurer to make sure the treasurer sees no problems with any language that's gonna get proposed, so this is not happening in a vacuum. So that's it.
So you're gonna work with Will and Heather and
Input from Jim and Colin and any other departments I need to be aware of that make major purchases.
and you're gonna do similar to what I'm doing on the personnel policy.
It's probably gonna be like that, yep. Point person.
Okay.
So I presume the board has no objection to that, and that's enough authorization to proceed.
I personally don't. Anybody else?
Okay. Thanks for the help, Will.
Agenda items for next meeting.
Is our next meeting gonna be in 2 weeks or in June?
2 weeks comes on Memorial Day, I believe.
Yes.
Do we need a meeting in 2 weeks?
Well, not on Memorial Day. 'Cause I
No, we
don't
wouldn't
think I'll
do
be in
that.
town.
But we often do them on other days, and I'm just wondering if we have a need for a special meeting.
Unless something comes up between now and then, I don't see much here that's like 2 week urgent. 'Cause that'll also, give some time to go over some of these other ones, like the code of ethics, the personnel policy review, our policy review, the purchasing policy review.
Oh, yeah, no, 2 weeks is gonna be too fast to
Yeah.
present anything. Even a month might be too fast. So back to the question, what the agenda items for next meeting?
The one that, geez, I don't see, slipped my mind already.
DOI if it's June.
Yeah.
I have LEMP that'll need signature, local emergency management plan.
Is there a deadline timeliness concern on that?
It's June 1st, but I talked to the guy who's okay with the night.
Okay, so first Monday in June is.
Second Monday.
Second,
It's
second.
not- it's the ninth.
Okay,
It's okay, you said it's okay to go.
Yeah, I talked to him, yep.
Okay.
Zoning, we'd like to give you an update, because it's at that point, 4 months under his belt.
Mhm.
So we just like to come. Here you go.
Okay. Anything else?
What else did we knock off on this one? To make sure- Did we knock anything else? Didn't you have a couple that you knocked off? Law enforcement.
No. Okay. No, that sounds good.
You want the planning on there, just to hold it, because we might have.
Oh, yeah,
a
planning.
Nomination by then.
Planning commission.
On June 20th.
Appointment.
We'll use it as a placeholder. And we'll-
Thanks for your Facebook thing, Will. I saw that. It was really good. I wish you brought us some candidates. Will
Oh, yeah,
did an update for the planning commission vacancy.
well, and like Robin said, who looks at Facebook? One, who's gonna take the time to look at the town, the town page on
Does the
Facebook?
town have an Insta account?
Oh, goodness,
That could be a Will thing.
I don't know. That would involve taking pictures. I'm gonna stay out of that one.
Pictures of,
Well, Instagram is generally speaking.
Instagram is like selfies, promotion.
But
influencing.
certainly not of me, but
Well, you
Photos
don't want them
of,
with me.
Anything else? I don't know, do we maybe have a highway department report? Garage. Hopefully we have some info by then.
Did we talk about having a road commissioner report as opposed to a highway department report? Did we
Well,
talk
I
about-
had suggested it, but I didn't hear back from you.
I mean, I'm in favor of that. If there's something that, if there's nothing that requires Jim's direct input, because I know for these meetings, we try and keep people interfacing with us rather than sidebars.
Right.
That might just help redirect some of the traffic our way. Keep things a little more.
And you guys
orderly.
are in communication with Jim, so you're probably informed enough to do that update.
Yeah, I mean, Jim stepped in, but as far as the, you know, the issues with the grading, like that was, you know, the result of
Right.
us having, you know, Jim on leave, or on holiday, I should say,
And being short-staffed for.
well, so the new guy starts today, and then, Sean was on bereavement. So,
So it's, but it would, and it would save us another cost, that, you know, not a major thing, but
yeah,
we're not paying Jim overtime to be sitting here through
true.
our too long meetings. David?
On that, Dave Morrison, on that subject of the road commission's report, so to speak, there are issues from the past that will be better directed now that you two are road commissioners than to Jim, because it's a policy thing and he is the worker, not the policy maker.
Yeah.
In particular, it's the size of intersections that we probably haven't talked about with this, anybody on this board, but
I've heard it a few times.
okay, thanks, Sue. That is something, Jim will do whatever we tell him to, once he's got all caught up in the time to do it. One of them is right at the top of Mad Brook, which was part of the discussion. If you look on the right-hand side, when you get up there, the road is almost on the cable. The guys that, it's right on the corner on Nate and Michaela's land there. My intersection, because of a drainage problem, they redid it, surveyed by Bill Willis. It's pulled in the way it should be. That's a thing that down the road we can talk about extensively. But if you look at Hale and Duck Pond, that thing's well over 100 feet wide. It only needs to be 25 feet plus the 30-foot radius, like Bill surveyed my corner there. Those are the kind of things that you should be responsible for down the road. And then you make decisions based on our input and report to us how they've gone. But that makes good sense. Thank you.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't mention that. This is kind of late for it, but what the heck, I do it when I think of it. As far as the FEMA process goes, I guess the board knew that the Mad Brook Road Bridge is being, that's, FEMA is participating in that, or that's part of, one project that's part of it. But they also are going to, it looks like they're going to allow the replacement of the culvert on Daniels Farm Road, just this side of the intersection with Simpson Brook Road. The 4-foot culvert that washed out once or twice.
Replaced with an enlarged culvert?
Yeah, to get it done this year, which is, I guess, the hope, but maybe not. It might not make it, but you couldn't get a precast structure, like precast concrete structure like Mad Brook Road. It's gonna be well, we used to call it a squash pipe. It's wider than it is tall.
It's like an oval with a flat bottom.
Yeah. And so
But that
we just got the estimate
What is that structure?
from the engineering company, Ruggles Engineering, late last week on that. So
They didn't put in a 4-footer there, did they? What? The
There
old
was a
road
4
stuff is still laying there, and that's nowhere near that big.
I believe
I didn't
it's,
think they'd put in anything entirely new, because the whole road didn't go out
oh,
there.
it's new. But they replaced it with, the one that was there, I believe it's hard to tell because it's smashed up pretty good, but I think the one that was there was a 4-footer and they put in a new 4-footer. But, you know, should be able to salvage. You know, if you take care, should be able to salvage pipe that was just put in last year when you replace it, so. But anyways, really got off the subject, but, okay,
You ready to entertain a motion to
Yep.
enter executive session?
yeah,
So moved.
all those in
Night
favor,
all. Thanks
Aye.
for listening.
Aye.
Thanks, Dave.
executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,
Entered at 7:53 PM.
3 minutes late.
Not bad.
If I had